go. Welcome to the Dasharo roadmap. Like there is the disclaimer. Like I think the roadmap is evolving. It's changing a lot. You will see how many changes we have, but we also starting to release something. So there are also positive effects of tracking the roadmap. Just for those who don't who remember, or maybe some don't remember, Richard Stallman at some point was on the vPub. And when he was asked what we should do in open source firmware community to make it thrive, to make it work, he said like do roadmaps and execute on it, something like that. In short, so this is we're trying exactly vision of Mr. Stallman, and yeah. So this roadmap is just rough idea what we're planning to do. There is everything can change, and that's it. Let's move on. Yeah, so I changed this slide because previously I know that it's not very well visible. If there will be higher resolution, it would be maybe better, or different color choice, but the green and white is very terrible. But anyway, the point of this slide is that let's imagine you are a regular user, you are maybe wanna be open source firmware developer or tester, or just enthusiast, but you want to learn more, and maybe you want to pursue a career in this area. So what you should do? So or I don't know, like you want to learn it yourself. So you should start. We think you should start with open security training too. So this is Zino Kovac project, which hosts publicly. Even some of the videos are released on the YouTube, so you can watch those trainings and take the classes, take the exercises there. And this is also what we're doing with our junior interns in 3M Dev. So they taking some of these open classes, part of which we did, and we deployed on OST2. Thanks to that, they learn a little bit, and a user can learn a little bit and can understand our topic a little bit better, and they can go to the next step. So they going through the bootstrap thanks to the OST2. After the bootstrap, we have something which is called PACE Enterprise Training. So we have all those juniors, maybe let's say a little bit advanced juniors, which can do something like you are a user which is able to compile core boot, maybe run it in QEMU, maybe even tinker something on the hardware, but you will need something more. Then we have this PACE Enterprise Training, which is part of our training in 3M Dev if you are a 3M Dev employee. But if not, we also provide this kind of training to the third-party organizations, so we can go to other companies which need core boot UEFI development, and we can train the employees, and that's something that is very customized for the company needs. And what can happen after that? After that, there are essentially 3 grades which can happen. So let's say we have these employees, either ours or either in other organizations. They doing this firmware hacking, and of course this is for some purpose, for some for hardware, for either for building hardware and selling the hardware with core boot, maybe for some internal company projects, or maybe like 3M Dev for a living. Yeah? Then we have couple offerings. Then there is Dasharo community support. So Dasharo community support is more for individuals who would like to use Dasharo enabled or open source firmware enabled hardware, either in their daily life for the personal use, or maybe for company use, because they like transparency of open source firmware, privacy that it can provide. So the offering here is Dasharo community support, which is backed by Dasharo entry subscription, which is some fee added to the hardware or both alone. And thanks to that, we can deliver this support to community and bring more releases to the table and enable more devices. The next level is Dasharo support package, which is used by various companies, like for example, Nova Custom, Protectly. We would be glad to have more companies, like back in the days it was PC Engines also. So this is like yearly package that we're selling, which consists of set of support time and resources from our side. So someone can deliver the open source firmware Dasharo on their hardware, including all those features that we developing. Of course, this includes maintenance. This includes upgrading the core book, upgrading the EDK2, and essentially like direct support in driving the project. And that is the highest level of the cooperation with us, which typically is targeted at ODM, but also hyperscalers, which consists of like very customized service level agreement, sometimes even with copyright ownership transfer. If this is some internal work, something which will not go immediately to the open source, or maybe never will go open source because of the company needs. Sometimes people doing the core boot ports for the stuff that never face the end user, because those are, I don't know, CNC machines or some embedded environment, like train device, like computers in the trains. Those devices not always facing end user, and the buyer don't have to look into code always. So that's the offer for those, and that's kind of a path how people who are completely not related with 3M Dev can enter the ecosystem and help us grow and find ourselves in various levels of building Dasharo and expanding the trustworthiness of the computing devices. Okay, so here there is not much change from the last year. This is essentially process for the Dasharo community support devices. We typically start with some discovery. We trying to understand if given device, if it makes sense to add given device to the community support. Then there is some evaluation. We're checking hardware if we have it, or we asking someone who have this hardware to check it. Then there is porting effort, validation effort, and there may be two types of releases: the community release and the subscriber release. The subscriber release is paid, and it's either you buying hardware with subscriber release or you buying the subscription itself. Yeah. The first two subscriber releases were released recently. It was firmware for MSI Pro Z690 version 112, and 0.9 for Z790, and all the variations of this board, because they can be with Wi-Fi, without Wi-Fi, DDR5 or DDR4. So yeah. Let's go to the next slide. Oh, this is like not very high quality, but I guess you can get slides on the GitHub. You're going to Dasharo presentations, and there are slides there. Oh, okay, and Muriel already dropped the link. Okay, so essentially what happened here is a little bit change in the schedule, because we planned initially to release the QEMU, Dasharo for QEMU in Q3, but unfortunately we have to change that. So it's slipped to Q4, and I hope we can stick to that date. And I guess this is it. The most important thing about QEMU release for us is that there is this open source firmware validation infrastructure, which if we connect with QEMU, we can automate a lot of stuff, and I believe that this can be a vehicle which will help us move Dasharo forward faster, because we don't have to have hardware to implement new BIOS settings. Maybe there are some things that we can test even before we try it on hardware, and this should speed up the development. Also, this should improve the quality thanks to the putting everything into CI/CD, and in CI/CD, if we don't have to run on hardware, that we can run in emulation that speed up things. And I hope this is something that will accelerate development, and that's why we're doing the Dasharo for QM. Okay, next slide. Next is the new roadmap that I added. Of course, this is like, I would say this is wishful thinking, but we will see if we can execute that. So the plan here is to create a release for APU 3, which would be Dasharo entry subscription release, and I hope to do this in Q4. I would base that solely on the 4.19 version, which is like the last version released for PC engines, and we will see if we can sell anything, and we will see if we will put that in the shop, and if there will be interest, then that's great. If not, then like we will announce this is failure and we will not continue releasing for PC engines. But on the other side, there is also offer that we preparing to sell in shop, which is like completely custom builds for enterprises or maybe for groups of users which are in need of upgrading the PC engines firmware. And this would be also available soon. We like finalizing preparing that offer in the shop. I guess you already can read about it, and you can inquire if you go to the shop. You can find it. The second thing is the Protectly, based on VP 4670, and the idea here is to have a target on which we can run Trenchboot as a CubesOS anti-evil mail. As some of you know, we're working on anti-evil mail for CubesOS. We're trying to port Trenchboot there. Right now, like we have various technical issues, but slowly moving forward. We were able to enable TXT for this VP 46700. This is thanks to the Michix development. And I hope like we can gather this together, this experience, and then create special version, because I don't expect this will go by default with the Protectly firmware, and make it a Dasharo entry subscription offer for those who like this kind of protection, and we will see if this will fly. So this is another idea on the Dasharo network appliance roadmap, which is new roadmap, which was not here during the last Dasharo user group. Okay, let's go with the next one. Another new idea and new roadmap is for laptops. It's for Nova Custom laptop. So Nova Custom asked us to do the heads plus core boot, so that this would be Dasharo release. We're still working on that, and we hope to deliver this release, which would be also Dasharo entry subscription release during the Q4. I guess like Wessel already touched this topic, so let's move on with the next segment. Yeah, the next one is also directly related to the similar concept that I told you about Protectly. This is the same situation, but based on Lenovo. So there are there's this cool series which serve the home, do reviews of the small boxes, like this tiny mini micro, and this is one of these boxes. Not the new, not very new one, but good enough, and on the other side, not blocked by Intel BootGuard, what was released recently confirmed. So we would be very happy to do the Dasharo for these boxes while enabling Trenchboot for it. We will see how hard it would be, but we already like this box because we can test anti-evil mail, we can test patches related to Trenchboot integration, and yeah, and that's why we like this box, and hopefully we can integrate it and provide offering for that. Okay, let's go with the next one. Dell desktops. Yeah, this is what I changed here. This roadmap changing a lot. So initially we planned to release 0.1 in Q2. We already are past Q3 almost. So that's what we had to change. So last Dasharo user group we changed OptiPlex target to Q4 and T1650 to Q1 24. And now essentially we're sticking to these deadlines, but we changed the type of the releases, that those releases would not be fully open. Those would be available behind the entry subscription. We just have to gather some funds for delivering more to the market and we cannot do that because we cannot do that other way because we are not selling hardware in huge volumes, so there is no margin for us in other places than just in selling the entry subscription. And I hope that we can find enough buyers for that to make it sustainable. Okay, let's go to the next one. Yes, MSI. And I have to say MSI is probably the roadmap to which we stick the most, and there is the least number of changes on this roadmap. So during Dasharo user group 1, which was somewhere in Q1, we promised that version 1.1.2 will be delivered in Q3, and we kept that promise because it was recently released. And we promised that 1.2, which is community release, which will go to everyone, should go to the public in Q4, but we moved that target further because we added some new releases. So we added 1.1.3 to the roadmap, which was new release added during Dasharo user group, last Dasharo user group. And there are some, we hope to release some overclocking features here. I know that Michik's already working on that. And I guess like we will have a bunch of other improvements and fixes with that small release of 1.1.3, which will happen in Q4. What else here? Yeah, I guess this 1.2.0, the community release, moved to first quarter 24. Yeah, so let's go to the next one. Here we have Z790. The situation is very similar to the 690. We essentially sticking to the maybe not exactly sticking, because the initial idea was to have community release in Q4, but then we added two releases, the 0.9 and 0.91. After adding those releases, then we shifted the version 1 release to the Q1 24. And so far we already released the 0.9, and I guess like we will release 0.91 in Q4, and there is no change and concerns about that. There is one new release that I added. We want to do the Dasharo Core Boot Plus heads, which will be based on the 1.0, I hope, or we can also base that on 0.91. We will see, but that will be different from the others because the others contain Core Boot plus UEFI, and this one will contain Core Boot Plus heads. And I guess this may be interesting for Jan because he asked for that. And I know that Q2 is maybe a long time. I hope we can do that earlier. To be honest, we did shifted left the releases for 690, so maybe we can do that for 790 with the heads, but we will see. Next, please. So so we have our passionate Han Etzer, about whom I tried to talk on the during the agenda and the community heartbeat, but I know that not much gets to you. So Han Etzer recently is very active on porting. Previously, he was trying to do Asus Pro WSX 570As, but he kind of gave up because of the serial ICE didn't work as expected with those images, and I think he tried multiple images. But I hope he will explain why he gets to the ASRock X370 killer, and we will see where he is in the development and how fast this can go, because this is very how to say that, unusual development for the current state of the core boot, because this is AM4 AMD based AM4 socket Ryzen 3200, if I recall correctly. So if this will be successful, this would be very interesting achievement. But question is how long and how much energy is needed to achieve some reasonably stable state for this AMD hardware. Okay, let's move on. workstation area. Here, this area is probably one of the most active in changing the deadlines by us. So we initially thought that KGP D16 version 0.05 can be released in Q3, but we didn't make it. It was then changed to the first quarter of 24, and we even shifted that even further to QT 24. So the problem with KGP D16 is that essentially upstream don't like the old AMD code. It like I guess all the old target were dropped from the upstream. And I don't know if there's even chance to get back with those patches to upstream. There are still problems. There are still problems reported for version 0.4, which we released end of last year. But many people say it's way more stable than the previous code, than the older code. And I guess that LibreBoot even picked our code to base the new releases of LibreBoot on that. On the other side, there is not enough resources to fix everything. Yeah, this hardware getting old, and it's very hard to gather enough resources to fix everything here. On the other side, I'm discussing with Immunify because there is some money left from the bounty that they offered, and I'm trying to talk with them if there is chance to change the because we promised that this remaining money will go to the maintenance releases, but what we asking right now is 0.5 release with bug fixes, which change the way we want to allocate the resources, and it needs their approval, and we will see. We're also getting quite a lot of emails, and in some emails people even offer money for KCMA D8, I guess, or so this is very similar platform to this one, but anyway, yeah. I guess we probably will do open collective money gathering and see if there is enough interest in moving that target. Then we did also release of the Raptor computing system Talos 2 thanks to Insurgo sponsoring. Of course, the project went a little bit out of the control. It was way more complex than we anticipated, and essentially we crossed the budget probably twice. And in that way, we kind of invested our own margins to bring the core boot into Talos 2. But this is definitely thanks to the Thierry and motivation from him to push that forward. And we released 0.7 in Q3. So this is another accomplishment of Dasharo in recent months. Yeah, and I guess this is it for the workstation, and let's go with the server. Yeah, X11 SSH. Yeah, we had huge hopes for this hardware. I have this hardware in home. We have, thanks to NitroKey, we have this hardware in 3M Dev Lab. But the problem here is that when we try to do trench boot and all this DRTM stuff for this hardware, and this is where the idea of the Dasharo is coming. We hope that we can do the DRTM stuff on this hardware, so we can do also release the Dasharo firmware for that with the DRTM capabilities. But it happened that this target was very hard to work with. A lot of problems like with BMC, with remote access, and we just couldn't get through that. And because of that, it just falls in priority. And last Dasharo user group, we shifted by 1 quarter, and now we're shifting another quarter. And to be honest, I don't know if we will ever make this release. I know that some community members like count on that, but what I can say, if this doesn't work and it's so hard to make it, and hardware is not so new, then yeah, I guess this is a huge problem for us, and there is no return on investment for this hardware. Maybe something will change, but but this is how this is going. If we will continuously move on with the target date, then we will have to cancel it at some point. Okay, and that's it from my side. And thank you for listening. If you want to support us, please go to the shop. Please buy Dasharo entry subscription for your platform. Please deliver Dasharo. Please test Dasharo. You can also use shops of our partners. You can go to NitroKey shop or Nova Custom shop, depending on what you need, and buy the hardware with Dasharo. And thanks to that, you support us and support companies which care about transparency, open source firmware. We're also looking for partners for resellers in Canada, US, Brazil. I guess that those are countries which still we don't have too much traction. We know that open source firmware is needed on that market, but still waiting for someone who will contact and would like to change something in that area. That's it from my side, and thank you very much for listening.
I had a question, but I forgot what it was. I'm looking over the roadmap spread. I forgot the roadmap slides. I don't have no idea what's going on with me today. In order to try remembering what the question was.
Which roadmap? Maybe you remember if I show it to you.
It's fine. I'm looking at the GitHub page, so I'm just scrolling through.
Okay.
So I guess like we are way behind the schedule. Like I don't know if there are any concrete questions, then let's go with that. If
yes,
not,
I
then...
remembered. I remembered.
Sure. Please.
I have a question. This isn't directly related, so it will probably need to be kept short and perhaps afterwards in the discussions
Sure.
a bit more.
Please ask.
I remembered due to the Lenovo roadmap. I remembered I just that since in the past few weeks I accidentally semi-bricked my laptop's firmware. It's a Lenovo laptop. Not because I unlocked it, but because I accidentally configured one of the settings. That's not important right now. The interesting thing here is that the whole thing about unlocking the firmware, it's not just Lenovo laptops here. It's I forget what's the name of the firmware vendor. The name of the product is H2O. Inside OS. So apparently there's been a security exploit in their firmwares these past years, and they only managed to partially patch it, I think, or it's a different security exploit that is currently being used in order to unlock devices with their firmware. I was wondering whether the situation with Inside's firmwares could potentially make things a bit easier to try getting hardware that by default runs their firmware to make it easier for debugging in order to and reverse engineering to get core boot on.
Yeah, I guess like all these exploits could help, but still this is a lot of work. Yeah. So
that is true. That's why I'm not expecting suddenly another target to materialize. I was just wondering if it could potentially help.
On the other side, it's also a question, okay, let's say you have Intel bootguard locked Lenovo laptop, you have working exploit, but then like how you do this in scale, and then does it make sense to build business on such kind of weird flow? Yeah, it's like it's maybe good for some niche indie seller and like to sell like let's say 10 or 15 here and there, but if someone wants to sell tens or hundreds, then I guess this is not reliable method. And on the other side, I don't know if you cannot get into trouble with Lenovo legal using exploitation to override the firmware.
Yeah, Lenovo is an enterprise OEM after all, so they won't take it lightly.
Yeah, from interesting stuff, like we can talk later about Lenovo, because like they are right now one of the sponsors of the UFI forum. If you look at the Plugfest, so if you look at the Plugfest, you essentially have 6 companies. It's AMI inside Phoenix, ARM, Microsoft, and Lenovo. So like think about.
They have representatives for 12 promoter companies, though.
Yeah, so you can see like what kind of group of people it is, and like you can.
Inside themselves are also amongst them, so that that just complicates things even more.
Yeah. Okay. I guess like we have last more presentation. But I will give up with this presentation because of the. So I guess this presentation will. I had hoped to introduce open source firmware validation, but Maciej's demo essentially introduced this from the practical point of view. I just wanted to give like more background and maybe as a discussion or questions to the Maciej's demo, we can do this introduction. Yeah. So Maciej, maybe we can switch to you and just start the demo, because we are already half an hour after the schedule.
Can I just ask one thing? Not a question, a request.
Sure.
Could we at least, in some capacity, talk about the validation effort during the discussion times? Not instead, like, yeah.
Yes. Let's Maciej show the demo, and then we can switch to like usual vPub discussion. But the next demo will be Han Etzer's demo on in 34 minutes, I would say. So we have like time for Maciej's demo, and then a little bit time for discussion, and then we're getting back on track with the schedule.